Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part 2 of our series on ClaimSetter. On today's show, we have Elnor Rosenrath
Hi, thanks for having me.
and Torry Wilcox.
Hi, good to be here.
Really appreciate having both of you here. If you missed part 1 in our series on ClaimSetter, please go back and give it a listen to hear more from Elnor. For part 2, we turn to a customer of ClaimSetter's to learn how ClaimSetter is used inside a real independent agency. Our focus today is going to be on Torry Wilcox, and he is the Chief Operating Officer of Insure Pro Insurance. Torry's insurance career began with an internship at the National Benefits Partner and a 6-year stint at Farmers Insurance. Soon he realized that the best fit for him and his clients was to open an independent agency with 2 fellow agents operating out of the great state of Utah. Insure Pro's mission is to exceed every one of their customers' expectations with superior insurance coverage, price, dependability, and service. Torry has been married to his wife Kelly for 15 years and is the father of 5, including twin boys. And in his free time, our research tells us that he enjoys archery hunting, fly fishing, and snow/water skiing. I'm very curious, as a get-to-know-you question, Torry. Bow hunting. My spouse comes from a long line of bow hunters out of Georgia. Are you a recurve kind of guy? Are you a crossbow? What's your weapon of choice on the archery range?
No, my weapon of choice is compound. Yeah,
Excellent.
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The
Yeah, we have
recurve guys are too hardcore for me.
well, it gets kind of worse around the Thanksgiving table because my spouse's family, they're Old English longbow archers.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my spouse's grandfather was a rather famous hunter in Georgia, and we have on the wall we have one of his longbows. We like our audience to understand the kind of agency that you represent, so that they can understand, oh, I do business like that, or that sounds like a cool way to do it. I hear maybe I could change to adapt in that direction. I'd love for you to start by telling us about your agency. How long has Insurance Pro been in business, for listeners that can't do math when I said the number earlier? And how many people work there? What do you specialize in? All that fun stuff about an agency.
Yeah, great. We've been in business about 16 years now, so it's been a little bit of a stint. We have about 25 employees right now. Our split of business is about 50% personal, 25% commercial, and 25% health and life.
Oh, cool.
So we have a pretty good mixture. I would say our niche of business is probably more affluent households on the personal line side.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is not to write every client, but to look and write the clients that really value what we can bring to the table. And that's more of an advisory role, is kind of what we're hoping to bring to the table for our clients.
Certainly. And I can see how that'll factor into our conversation later on. A question I like to ask agents and agency principals is, what gets you personally excited about insurance?
That's a good question. Probably twofold, I would say. First and foremost, I love taking somebody's situation and all the different puzzle pieces, carriers, pricing, coverages that they need, and making it fit and work for that person, and making sure that they are adequately protected. And then that all comes together. Obviously, we don't want people to have a bad thing happen, but it does often happen. And that puzzle can then become a masterpiece in protecting that person. So figuring out that puzzle and making sure that that masterpiece comes together when they do need us, that's what gets me up and doing it every day.
Excellent. I'm kind of jealous. You right in Oregon? Hope my current agent isn't listening. But I like that approach because I think it resonates with the concept that you're not just selling a policy, you're looking out for the welfare of your community and your clients. You're trying to protect them and offer them the best insurance that they can live their lives and know that they're covered.
Yeah, exactly. I tell my agents that work for me, we're never going to be a progressive gun. So we're just
Yeah.
not shooting out a price, but
Yeah.
we want to be that advisor and help our client.
So as an agency, Insure Pro has a focus on the customer experience and the quality of care that they receive. Many agencies probably want to do that, and they might be struggling to achieve that goal and not maybe recognize how a particular partner could factor into solving for that. And I'd like to take us back in time a little bit to understand, what were you looking for when you first encountered ClaimSetter, and how did you become aware that they were a potential solution to that pain point?
I realized there was an issue with how the claims experience was happening for my clients, and that degradation of the claims experience over the past 5, 10 years has just gotten worse and worse. And I got to the point that if I had a client have a claim, I thought there was probably a pretty high percentage chance that I was going to lose that client out of
Wow.
um, no real, nothing that I could really control in that process. So we did everything we could in that, giving them good service and adequately protecting them, but because of the carrier or the adjuster not doing their job in a timely manner, like the experience was degrading
Mm,
over time. So I actually um, hired somebody and moved them into a claims advocate role, and that is their sole purpose, is to field claim calls, hold our customer's hand through the process. Um, so I had already started kind of this solution to this problem when I came across ClaimSetter, and they have it at a whole nother level. And so our visions really aligned already when I came across what they do and what they can bring to the table, and helping that customer instead of just having okay claims experience, a great claims experience. That's what we want, is to deliver on that promise, make sure that they're taken care of and they're happy at the end of the day. And their claim setter and our vision really aligned in helping solidify that.
yeah, I love that. And Elnor, you touched on this a bit in part one, but do you feel like that is a common route into an agency discovering ClaimSetter? They're already trying to pull on the levers they can, um, to make the claims process better. Is that a common story you hear from your customers?
The short answer is yes. I think it comes down to the deep understanding or acceptance that this is something that the agency needs to put attention into. If you're just talking about it with your friends and complaining about it, that's one thing, right? I complain about the weather all the time, but I still don't do anything about it. Uh, but when an agent reaches the point that they're either, as Torry's done, actually gone out and invested resources, recruited, built built a core operation, at least an operational flow to solve this, or are just trying to figure out how to make this work, really spending time thinking about how to make this work. That's I think the big trigger. The other part is also the very deep understanding that retention is extremely important. You see that usually when agencies reach a certain scale, because if you're really small, then losing a customer a year is not that big of a deal. But when you get to a certain scale, just driving more business to replenish the amount of customers that you're losing becomes a bigger challenge. So that's the other side of it, of making sure that this experience is the best that it can be, so that
Mhm.
you're bleeding less customers on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tori, you had mentioned that came to a point where a claim often meant a customer leaving the agency or a client leaving the agency. And I want to attack this from a different perspective, because I have definitely encountered insurance professionals that are more than happy to defer the claims process to the carrier. It's like, this is what you're paying your premiums for. They have a claim center, they have a team that's supposed to take care of this for you. How would you address that type of mindset at an agency? How has it impacted your business in a positive way to take ownership of the claims process?
If you're deferring it to the carrier, then you're relying on a human element in that claims process, in that you can have great adjusters and you can have really bad adjusters and everything in between. And that is something that you're relying that business relationship with your client over to that carrier and whoever that human adjuster is. And they may be having a very bad day, or they could be having a great day, and that's going to affect the claims experience for
Hmm.
your client. So it's a bit of a roll of the dice if you're relying on the carrier.
Hmm.
And that's what I just felt like I couldn't do anymore. I couldn't roll that dice. I had to get involved and put the odds in my favor
Mm.
with our client and their experience. So for other agencies out there, I think carrier agent partners are willing to invest in the experience of their clients, and if you don't take that same mindset, you're going to get left behind
Hmm.
because your clients are going to have a bad experience, and they're going to look for areas where they can experience a better positive outcome if and when they need to.
Tori's completely right about the experience side. And one of the things, or one of the mindsets that we stumble into quite a lot with agencies is that they've been trained by carriers to just not touch claims. It's if it's a claim, just throw it over to us and leave us alone. So I want to create or emphasize the distinction that Torry just made. There's a very big difference between controlling the claim, which is completely the carrier's domain. That's what they're supposed to do. Period. And controlling the experience that the customer has.
Mm.
Even getting a negative response for a customer quick is a good outcome. The customer may not be excited about the fact that they don't have coverage, but they're not in limbo. They're getting a response quickly. So controlling the experience is extremely doable. Controlling the outcome, that always stays with the carrier.
I'd like to dig into the practical experience with ClaimSetter at the agency. Some partners in our space, they're going to provide expansive feature-rich platforms. Others are going to have these really focused or specific tools and services. And we want to consciously focus on specific changes with an agency empowered by the partner. In our From our view, there's a world before you start working with them, and there's a world after, and we want to highlight the difference. What can Insure Pro do now with ClaimSetter that you couldn't do before?
The things that ClaimSetter has brought to the table to our agency is just the ability to have an advocate working for our clients to positively have a good experience in that claim when that claim does happen.
Hmm.
Not only that, but they can control the cost because they can make the claim happen much faster. Um, they can work with the adjuster, have them do their job. So it's at another level that we don't have the resources to do that.
Hmm.
So bringing them in and having them walk through that very complex 16 stage process and really simplify that for our clients has been awesome. Our clients have been very happy, and we're very excited to refer any clients that we feel like are worthy of a claim to ClaimSetter in that process.
For an agency that might be listening and trying to understand, okay, where does ClaimSetter come in? And I would encourage listeners to go back to part one and listen to Elnor's elevator pitch about the process with ClaimSetter. But Torry, from your experience on the agency side, what happens when you receive that first notice of loss? How do you, and it's a claim, let's say you look at it and you evaluate and you say this is for ClaimSetter. Where does it go from there? How does it come about to start the process?
Yeah, so generally we'll have our claims advocate will field that call in-house in the agency and evaluate, is this going to be beneficial for the client, or the ramifications of that claim just not worth it?
Mm.
And so once we verify, and sometimes that takes contacting ClaimSetter and having them send out a contractor to evaluate the damage. Are we talking $2,000? Are we talking $50,000? Sometimes we just have no idea until we get eyes on it. And so that's something they can do preemptively before we even file a claim with the carrier. So we're gathering more data to really help our clients before those ramifications come into play. And then if we decide, yeah, it's worth moving forward, then we'll file the claim with the carrier. get that information over to ClaimSetter. They generally have somebody assigned to that claim, working with the client, and getting the process started and selecting the contractor and working with the adjuster and that whole process. So things start moving faster,
Hmm.
definitely working with ClaimSetter because they've got somebody actively working on those instead of, oh, well, you'll hear back from the adjuster in 48 hours to 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I can imagine that it's such a reinforcement of why a client would do business with a high touch agency like Insure Pro if you can accelerate that process where they're not struggling to wait for a letter to show up. I recently had a claim, an auto claim, so it wasn't a claim setter thing that would have been beneficial, or else I would have called Elnor. But it every step of it took forever, and so I think that it makes total sense as you emoted that your agency you try to focus on maybe some high net worth property or clientele as like advisors to cover their whole portfolio. That having a good pace is important to that process.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think everybody can relate to that that has had a claim that it is a very long process.
A story is popping back up in my brain, and Eleanor, you can tell me if I got this wrong or not, but or if I'm misremembering something. But I feel like you have some pretty good examples of very quick claims turnarounds.
A lot of this is about speed. A lot of it is also about certainty.
Mm,
So when you first hear from a customer, it's not really a claim usually. It's a situation. The customer thinks there's something wrong with their roof. They think that they don't really know. And when you go down the normal course of things, then the normal course, you submit an FNOL, and then the adjuster tells the customer no, and that's it. You've had a horrible experience because the adjuster refused the customer.
mm,
Um, just sort of building on what Torry mentioned earlier about sending contractors. So when it's a situation, a customer called in and said there's something wrong with my roof, or someone knocking on the door said they could get me a new roof, whatever it is, us sending a contractor very quickly, the next day usually, to have a look at the roof and have a conversation with the customer and say, listen, this is actually a $2,000 thing. It's really not worth it. Already removes a lot of pressure from the system, but
mm,
a lot of it really comes down to certainty. To
mm-hmm,
okay, removing the question of is this just a situation or is it really a claim? But the example that I usually like is so we aspire for quick turnarounds, and our record for doing a claim. This was a whole roof replacement, full roof replacement in Oklahoma. Was from first contact with the customer to full roof replaced, and that is it. By the way, the customer doesn't need to ever talk to anyone again about this claim. The claim was paid and done, just fully processed within 9 days, um,
wow.
which I know is very fast for the industry. I'm still aspiring to do it faster. So
Okay.
we're constantly aspiring to get it to move faster, faster and faster. And our ideal, what we hope to get to, and I don't know if we ever will, is to be able to do a roof claim, 24-hour repair roof claim within 48 hours from first contact with
Mm,
the customer. Now, will we ever get there? I don't know. It obviously relies on the adjuster moving fast enough and a whole bunch of other components. But the faster you get the customer recovered, the cheaper it is, the
mm-hmm,
happier the customer is, the happier the carrier is, the happier the agent is. And by the way, it also tees up the agent to be able to now go and upsell because they've actually lived up to their promises.
mm,
So it allows them, and we try to help in that process by sort of teeing up the next conversation after a repair by basically saying, listen, the same way that I was here for you when your roof had damage or something else happened, I can be there for you on your life insurance or your health
mm,
insurance or
mm-hmm.
whatever else. Or let's talk about car insurance. Again, whatever other new things come out in the space, you've lived up to your commitment. You've proven you're trustworthy. So we try to feed into that.
Yeah, excellent. That was the story I remembered. I just couldn't remember if it was 10 days, 9 days. So I appreciate that. Um,
It wasn't easy. People didn't sleep at 9 days.
this kind of brings us to the last two questions we have, and maybe speed will play into this. But we talk about in part one about how this podcast is meant to be a dialogue. It's between service providers and their clients, independent insurance agencies. In the pursuit of fair play for our partners that Elnor had an opportunity to talk about the inertia inherent in the insurance industry last episode. I'd like to welcome Torry to give the independent agency's perspective on some constructive feedback for ClaimSetter. Torry, if there was one thing that you could change about ClaimSetter, what would that be?
I'm getting a notebook, so please.
Well, and this may be out of Elnor's wheelhouse here, but the one issue that we have run into is getting pushback from carriers, and that maybe goes into the inertia of the industry. In that, who is this claim setter? Why are they talking on behalf of the client? Why are you working with them? And so it's an education process, and that process is going to be slow. Most carriers have been really good to work with, but we've had definite pushback from some carriers saying, you are not allowed to work with ClaimSetter. Bluntly, that we are not allowed to work with them on their claims. And so it is going to take, and just like agents, there'll be early adopters, and the same thing with carriers, I'm sure. But that is the one pushback that we've had is some carriers have just not been ready to work with ClaimSetter, and that's been a little bit of frustrating. As far as the claims process, the communication has been amazing. I get an email. These are the claims that we have. This is where we're at in the process weekly. So I know exactly what's going on. They've been fantastic as far as the communication goes with our customers. So
excellent. That's an easy one. I joke a lot that I've like in the pursuit of starting a fight with those questions on part 1 and part 2. The fourth one, it's like, let's get some fire going. But I think it's an inherent piece of the fact that we work in such a great industry that you probably are not shy with giving Elnor feedback on the process, and Elnor is probably not shy of communicating to you how the industry could be better, that type of thing. So there's no like aha gotcha journalism there. But I can definitely appreciate the concept of, I think you travel as fast as your slowest walker, right? And I think just the inertia is often a factor of size and legacy, and so no one's going to have more of that than a carrier. But I definitely think maybe continued proof that the process works will hopefully convince carriers to stop putting up roadblocks.
And I will add, from our perspective on this, I've talked to a lot of carriers, as you can imagine. Every time there's a claim, we talk to a new carrier. And initially, everybody's very, very skeptical, as you can imagine, because carriers are used to the idea that anyone that touches a claim is by definition bad. It's just that's the general mindset. So initially, there's a lot of suspicion. There's a lot of some are willing to try, some are very hesitant. Everybody's got their own thing. We've never had a carrier refuse to work with us after they've actually experienced working with us. We've had carriers that have never talked to us that have basically said, no, we don't like this, and we're going to do everything that we can to not work with you. And yes, we've had unnamed carriers that have told Torry that they don't want us around their claims, which is fair, perfectly fine. Again, we're not looking to argue with anyone. So it is a process. It does take time, and I completely understand the apprehension. I completely understand the suspicion. All I will say is, at the end of the day, and I think this is the most important thing, and if there's one thing I want agents to sort of stay with, is the control of the claim always stays with the carrier. We never, ever affect the outcome of the claim, the actual outcome of the claim. All we do is make things move faster. That is it. So if the carrier wants to deny a claim, they'll deny a claim. If they want to approve $1, it'll be $1, or $2, it'll be $2. We never argue for an outcome.
I've known from our conversations that you're not looking to break the system. You're looking to improve the system. And so when you meet those points of resistance, I think your team recognizes like, okay, we'll get this one eventually. Let's focus on someone who's participating and willing, because that's just a smoother path to demonstrate the value.
And we always leave the agent in control. So when we run into situations like that, a case, for instance, that we had just 2 days ago, an adjuster for one of the larger carriers needs to adjust a roof in Indiana. and is unwilling to rely on pictures provided, whether it's drone pictures or pictures the contractor took when they climbed the roof. They want to send their own representative to go look at the roof. Except for safety reasons, they can't do it unless the temperature goes above 45 degrees, which is probably going to take a few more days. So again, we're not here to fight anyone.
Yeah.
So what we did is we reached back out to the agent and said, listen, this is the situation. What would you like to do? And now the agent is reaching out to the carrier to move this. So we bring the process to a place where we can, if it's relevant, we can bring in the agent, we can bring in whoever's the most relevant at that point, at the point that they truly add value. At the point that they can bring their expertise, they have everything they need in front of them to be able to make the decisions that they need, to be able to have the impact that they can make. And then we ask them what they want to do, because again, this is not our process. We are running a process on behalf of the agency, the customer, the carrier sometimes. So we're just trying to bring things to a place that everybody's on the same page.
Now, I'd like to close out our conversation with this final upswing question that can kind of look back across everything we've talked about so far. And if we look at the full scope of what ClaimSetter helps Insure Pro do, how would you describe the value that ClaimSetter brings to your agency?
How do you value a happy customer? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to put a monetary dollar amount to what they do, but if I have a happy customer, they're likely going to stay with me for a lot longer. That's going to bring, obviously, the agency more revenue, and they're likely to refer somebody, and they're likely to buy additional products. So all of those things are going to add value, but pretty difficult to put a monetary value to that.
Sure.
But definitely there is a value.
Yeah. What about if we set monetary value aside, how does it make you feel as an agency owner to have ClaimSetter working with your agency?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, the claims that we've closed, we've gotten positive Google reviews. That's going to help our agency as that regarded. Those feel good because it is going back to that promise. We're selling. That's what we're selling, is a promise. Nobody's buying a material item, something they can touch and feel, until they do have a claim. And so when they have that positive experience, that makes you feel good as an agent. And that's, I think, why a lot of people are in the business, is to feel good about helping a client get out of a bad or sticky situation.
I think that is the emotion I picked up throughout our conversation was, you care a lot about your clients. And I think a lot of our listeners have the same thing. They go to church with their clients. They live in the same communities as their clients. They see them at basketball games. And boy, howdy, can a bad claims experience or just a bad interaction with your agency make it really awkward to go to Little League for a while. And so I imagine there's a good peace of mind having a partner that you can trust help smooth that out and make sure it's a positive experience throughout.
Absolutely.
Well, there, I think we will put a close on our discussion with ClaimSetter. I really want to thank Torry for taking time out of his agency today to talk with us, and Elnor for joining us in the conversation about how ClaimSetter is used inside a real live agency. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the episode description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode, as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.